Good morning and welcome to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. That's 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. Good morning to you, Calvin. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. It's looking like we're going to have some beautiful weather for the weekend.
Yeah, man, a stretch of good weather as well it should be. It's the middle of May, and if we can't have good weather, a stretch of good weather in the middle of May, something is really wrong. So let me begin by saying yesterday I had a great opportunity. I was Vice President Kamala Harris was in Milwaukee, and there was a select group of people who were invited, as she had a conversation, an interview, if you will, with a comedian, a national comedian, and at Discovery World. And I forgot the guy's name, but anyway, yeah, I've heard, constantly they talk about how, not very bright the vice president is. And, man, they really don't know. She's a very bright woman, very accomplished woman. And she certainly showed that. D.L. Hughley, a national comedian is his name, who interviewed her. She travels around the nation talking about, what President Biden and she has accomplished. And she did a spectacular job. She's a very, very bright woman. And so for those who, want to mock her and say that she's not very bright, I guarantee you, if you stand her up next to the guy who's running on the Republican side of things, she will mop the floor with him. The aptitudes don't even come close. I'd also say that it was such a refreshing, opportunity that, from what I understand, they're going to be coming back and forth, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. And I've been promised an interview on my show with the President of the United States. So I'm really kind of excited about the fact that at some point in the near future, I'm going to be interviewing President Joe Biden. So, and at the same time that was going on in Milwaukee, the Republicans had concocted a scheme that they said, well, okay, well, Kamala Harris is in Milwaukee. Let's give away free gas to those people. and so they were giving away, Calvin, $25 worth of gas to the first 100 people who would line up to get $25 worth of gas. In essence, we're going to see if we can buy those people's votes. We'll give away free gas.
Yeah. I don't know about that one. I don't think I'm waiting in line for one tank of gas.
Well, they had 100 people, and they gave away, this gas, and I guess they figured maybe if we got 100 votes, it might make a difference. But man, it's $2,500 is about what $25 a gallon and 100. I'm not good at math, Calvin.
Yeah, I mean, if they gave away $125 gas cards or whatever they were doing, yeah, that'd be $2,500.
$2,500, and maybe they figured that investment will make a difference. But anyway, strange day on yesterday in the city of Milwaukee. But I'm joined by Mr. Don Browne. He is the Saturday morning show host of the Don Browne Show.
This week in Waukesha.
This week in Waukesha.
I'm not a
Well,
celebrity like you, Earl. So
no,
I
I'm
can't,
not. I'm not that, and
I'm just kidding.
I'm just an average guy. But anyway, uh, this weekend Waukesha, and so good morning to you, my friend. How are you?
I'm great, Earl. Thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
All right. So Sandy's on the road. He's a crew guy, and so he is a coach with a young crew team, and they're on their way to competition. I think it's in Cincinnati, so he'll be returning on Tuesday. So, Don, you wanted to talk about a story that's been floating around the state of Wisconsin for several days now. It's about a young track star who has been denied his eligibility because of a rule that states that parents have to live in a certain place, both mom and dad, in order for a child to compete. This is a story that rules. People say rules, and rules are rules, and rules shouldn't ever be changed. But this is a ridiculous.
It's not the spirit
rule.
of the law.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about what it is.
So the young man's name is Josh Onwunili from Campbellsport. He was born and raised there. Both parents. And after his freshman year of high school, he moved with his parents to Ghana to do mission work. Mission work, mind you. Christian mission work. Not that that should matter, but I know politically people talk about family values and being good Christians or whatever your faith is. But he decided to come back to finish, to prepare academically and athletically, finish high school and go to a good college.
They've been gone for 2 years.
Yeah, and he came back on his own. The parents remained, although the mom's moving back this week. And he's just killing it. And he's considered one of the best 100-meter sprinters in state history, which is also interesting. His coach, Derek Toshner, has been very outspoken about what a great kid he is to coach and how he's improved so much since coming back. And then they come out with this rule that, well, because you're a transfer and your parents don't live here, you can't compete. Now he's
now his parents own a home there. So.
They own a home. They kept the home while they're gone. And so, and mom's coming back this week, and I'm sure there was a guardian or other family people looking after him. But, this looks like a bright young man he does well in the classroom, and he's obviously doing really well on the track, and I'm sure would love to leverage that to do more in college. But they're saying, the statement from the WIAA, and by the way, Josh and his family are appealing this. The rules were applied correctly regarding transfers, and it begs the question, Earl, that if he was an average sprinter or a good sprinter, would they even care? But it's another case of the WIAA, shall we say, leaning too much towards the influence of these bigger high schools, the Arrowheads, and the big influencers, and keeping this kid from competing. And I understand. I think today is the day that they render a decision, so we might be behind the clock. But my advice to anybody listening is, if this upsets you as much as it does me and Earl, call the WIAA at 715-344-8580. That's 715-344-8580. And just let them know that we can do better, that this is really ridiculous, and we should be helping this young man along and not creating hindrances that appear to have a certain bias. Is that fair to say?
Well, the WIAA, 8 or 9 people who
inflated salaries,
who have been around, some of them 20, 25 years, out of touch, who clearly think more of themselves than they should.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole thing, rules are rules, not just in the case of this young man, but the WIAA and the fact that we've got this power and we want to use our power and influence, probably should be reconstituted. It's been around a long time.
Yes.
And so, these people get to be somebody special because they get to control the lives of people. So,
well, it's always been interesting to me too that they're headquartered out of Stevens Point. Why wouldn't a state governing body like that, and it is an NGO, it's not publicly funded, but why wouldn't they be in a more central place like Madison, like our capital? like that. It just seems kind of peculiar to me, and it seems like an ivory tower kind of thing. But it just, again, I think there needs to be more media awareness of what this young man's going through, and
well, there is media
needs our
awareness.
support.
It's on the television stations. It's in the newspapers. So the media is aware of it. The fact that the question remains whether or not WIAA is going to move off of the decision that they've made, and I don't believe they will.
Unfortunately,
because again, these are people who've been around a long time,
mm-hmm.
and they know where their power lies, and people don't even know who the members of the WIAA are.
Right.
The board members. So,
it's true. I had to look at when we were lobbying the WIAA to move Waukesha North and South out of the Classic 8 for football because they're largely mismatched. I had to look at their 990 to find out who's on their board, and I think it was probably dated by 2 years. But fortunately, that turned out to be a positive result.
So this is just ridiculous, and unfortunately, this young man is probably not going to.
Yeah. Well, never say never, and I'll say this because I had James Santel on one of my shows, and we were talking about, and he mentioned a case where the WIA was threatened to be sued because a high school was in a basketball playoff game and a fight broke out, and
I remember that,
and they were told that they couldn't move on to the next level even though they'd won the game, and the fight wasn't their fault, and the courts found for the high school, and WIA's response was that, well, we've got these established systems. We like to take care of these things internally, and they clearly didn't, or they exercised a certain bias, and so it may not be late in the game for any type of legal ramifications or petitions, if you will.
Well, 844-967-2789. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show. I'm with Don Browne.
Brothers.
All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. It's 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. The Saturday morning host of
This Week in
Waukesha, Don Browne, is in the studio, and he's talking about what really is, I think, just a ridiculous assessment or statement by the WIAA. A young man who, you get one chance in high school, and then you move on, and this is something he'll be able to remember for the rest of his life, regardless of whether he does anything more on the college level or wherever it is. To get a chance to do this right now is important, and to deny him and his family is ridiculous. Let's go to Gary from Sussex. Good morning to you, Gary. You say what? Gary? All right, I don't know where he is. But you say what, man?
Well, I mean, you look at this young man's story. You look at Campbell Sport, which is it's a small town. It's not in the news a lot. And here's a young man that's putting the city on the map, and he's doing great things. And by the way, while he was gone, he was doing mission work in Africa. Like how unique, how amazing is that? And he's doing well in the classroom. He's doing amazing things on track. And the whole idea of high school sports is allow these young men and women a chance to develop as good adults. You know, whether it's not necessarily about this young man winning a gold medal for the U.S. someday, although that would be fantastic, but it's about him advancing his high school career at a collegiate level. And there is a direct relationship, as we know, between sports or other extracurricular activities and the success you have in the classroom and in life.
All right, let's go to Gary. Gary, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, what's up?
Yeah, Earl, I'm sorry. I got cut off.
All right.
I've dealt with the WIAA before. My sons were wrestlers and stuff like that. They do have a power thing that they like to throw around. I believe that they're going to change their mind, and this kid's going to get out there and get a chance to run, because I agree, Earl, this is so stupid and so ridiculous. The kid went to Campbellsport, went on his mission trip with his parents. They're going to change their mind, because otherwise they're going to look really, really, really bad. So I think it's going to be positive. My personal opinion.
All right, Gary. Thank you very much for the call.
Yeah, thanks. That's great to hear. I mean, and it's true. I mean, their image has to be important to them, and doing the right thing has to be important. And here's a young man that I think makes the whole state look good if he's doing well, especially, again, from one of these smaller high schools. There's a great story that, unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, it's brought to light because of this controversy.
The reason that I believe they're not going to change their minds is because these people who've been there, and we're talking about, it's not a whole team where there are a bunch of parents and a bunch of children bringing pressure. Yeah. It's one family and one guy.
Well, but it is a team sport, and that guy's success contributes to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if more parents from that and from that school are getting involved. And as Jim Santel had said on one of my previous shows, that there could be legal ramifications for the WIAA if they're not acting accordingly, if they're not following the spirit of the law. It'd be different if they recruited this kid like a lot of Classic 8 high schools did.
So the WIAA
from another state.
The WIAA is not concerned about being sued. They've been sued a lot of times.
Sure.
And it's not money out of their individual pockets. And so that's why they're pretty steadfast in most of the decisions they make. And again, these are people who've been around a long time.
Yeah.
They don't yield to pressure.
Yeah.
Very often.
Although I will say this, for their credit, in recent years, they have started listening to some of these high schools. When you look at the conference realignments, I will say that some positive things have happened, and I think they're starting to get what's going on. And again, I'm not here to assassinate the WIAA, although I've said some kind of derogatory comments. I'm for really pushing for an equitable, a just situation where they have a chance to win, to shine here, and to continue doing great things for interscholastic sports throughout the state.
Well, whatever happens is going to have to happen
pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's why the whole thing about getting this thing to court is probably remote at best. I wish the young man and his family all the luck in the world in this. It is ridiculous that you say, because his parents are doing missionary work, his mom's coming back, the dad is trying to get back, but he can't get back because of, political reason.
Yeah.
And you can't see that and say, well, in this case, let's make an exception. And as they stated, the rule was put in place to stop teams from stacking.
Which is very common, especially in the Classic 8.
Yeah. Well, and so that's the whole purpose and reason behind it. And they're going to use that as a criterion for why this young man can't participate.
But you think of the spirit of the law. They look the other way for these they're bringing in kids from Texas and Georgia to play football. That if it makes our athletics look good, like, hey, why not support this kid and make athletics in Campbellsport and throughout the state look good. And again, this could affect any student in any part of the state for similar scenarios. So I think it's important that people speak up and let their opinion be known.
Well, they've certainly got it out there. It's not under a rock.
Sure.
And so, the print media, and now on the airwaves.
Yeah.
This story is out there. So,
and I thank you for allowing us to use your platform.
Well, and that's not, it's not even about my platform or this one, but it's on radio platforms across the state now.
Yeah, but this is the Earl Ingram Show. Let's be clear.
Yeah, well,
you say you're average. I disagree.
You can take that and a nickel, and you might be able to. You can't even get across the street with that.
Oh, I disagree.
So,
I owe you lunch too someday. Speaking of going across the street.
So anyway, man, thank you.
Thank you.
To let people know the time your show is on.
7 to 9 every Saturday morning. And it's all things Waukesha, but we talk about a lot of state stuff and a lot of national things. And you're welcome to listen if you download the Civic Media app. Earl comes on the show on occasion too, so we got to get you back on as well.
All right, that's Don Browne. So you need to turn him on. What time?
7 to 9 a.m. Saturday morning.
7 to 9 a.m. Saturday. He's always got interesting guests and topics. When we get back, 844-967-2789. Got a lot to talk about.
Thanks again, Earl.
You're tuning into the Earl Ingram Show. All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. You can never go wrong with ambrosia. Calvin, are you familiar with these, what do you call them, man? They've got all these people who have been, living in parking rides for a while. They've got, what do you call those things, man? Campers and other things.
Yeah, I think I have heard about that. It's become a trend to live in a van or your car.
Yeah, inside parking rides. And so there are people who've been, living there for 2 years. They've got these big camper trailers and all of that. And now they're being forced to move. And I wonder what people's thoughts are. 844-967-2789, 844 parking rides, 967-2789. Parked next to a line of trailers, a red Ford SUV sat in the back of the Holt Avenue parking ride Thursday. All of its windows were busted out, and the back seat was filled to the roof with clothes and blankets. A woman who only wanted to share her first name, Kate, said she's the vehicle's owner. Kate said Thursday someone had broken out all the windows, and she isn't sure why. It was the latest setback for Kate, who said she's been living in the Holt Avenue parking ride on and off for the last 4 years. Now, life is cruel and it's hard in America today. And yes, it's not just in America. It's, they've got people who have, taken up refuge in places, parks, and everywhere else, and all over this nation. And so there's a lot of pushback now from people who are saying you have no right to live here. I don't know, Calvin, you probably know better than I, but people who have campers and people who have mobile homes and whatnot, there are licensed areas and places that they can be, right?
Yeah, as far as like a camper or a trailer, I think typically, yeah, you would go to a campground or someplace that takes them. For people who are living in like personal vehicles, yeah, I don't see why it would be a problem if they're in a parking lot. That's where cars are intended to be parked, in a parking lot.
So 844-967-2789. I'm interested in your view on, people who are feel like there's nowhere else for them to go. These people are being turned out and they're being forced by the courts because the county owns those lots, and the county is saying, hey, you're not licensed to be here. Legally, the county is within its rights to say that these people have no right to be there. They gave them a deadline of yesterday for people living at the park and ride to ensure all their belongings were accounted for. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation oversees the lot. And so they have demanded that these people leave. Now, there are other people who have come in now, and they're cheering this on. Hey, yeah, get out of here! You have no right to be there. And there's vandalism now starting to take place with people who say these people need to get out of there, and they did in this case busted out the windows to this poor woman's vehicle. I don't know, man. I don't think you should be, if you own a big mobile home, and have you seen some of the sizes of some of these?
Oh, yeah.
If you own that thing, sell it, and you can, make enough money off of it to rent out a place. But to say I've got a mobile home, and I don't know, those things, that some of them are as much as $100,000, Calvin.
Oh yeah, they're expensive.
Yeah, and yet you have that, and you want to park it somewhere. Man, you can't just park that anywhere. You don't have a right to do that. And so the pressure that's being applied is pressure that people have been trying to apply for a long time now. And so for those people, who are in those kinds of positions, if you have an asset like that, I'm not talking about the poor soul who's sleeping in his car, Calvin. To me, that's a kind of a different reality. Because if that's all you got is your vehicle, you're pretty down on your luck, right?
Well, yeah, no, that's what I was saying is with like if someone's in an RV or a motorhome, I can understand the city not wanting those parking lots to turn into campgrounds. But if someone's in a personal vehicle using it as intended, I don't understand why that would be a problem.
Well, 844-967-2789. Trevor Fannin, a Wisconsin Department of Transportation spokesman, said the agency would be removing abandoned property from the park and ride in an email Thursday afternoon. Fannin said the Wisconsin Department of Transportation was still in the process of identifying and labeling abandoned items. Fannin emphasized the agency, and what they're talking about abandoned items, people have, barbecue grills and other things. They basically set up shop in the park and rides in many places across And here's the other side of it. They have offered people a place to stay. So if they've offered you a place to stay, and I don't know how long that's going to be, I don't think you can afford to give people, places to stay unlimited, right? But they have figured out places where these people can go and stay. They don't want to because they kind of build a community. They've kind of built a community there, and they know everybody, and it's, and it's friends and those kinds of things. But it clearly is another part and point where there's something going on in the nation that's really different that I haven't seen in my lifetime, and that is part of what has happened in this country and part of some things that have to be addressed. I mean, this has to be addressed because it's not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, it is getting worse. Let me transition to this. President Biden. President Biden is talking about, not basically not reinstating the Trump era tax cuts, and he's getting a lot of fallout. Calvin, we talked about the Trump tax cuts for the wealthy many times with Sandy, and we talked about how it's added to the overall debt that the nation faces. And so President Joe Biden is talking about, let me read a paragraph of this. And this is in today's USA Today. If there's one thing Americans can agree on, it's that we want to keep as much of our money as we can. The economy has been rough for the last few years, and Americans are feeling the squeeze. If President Joe Biden wins the 2024 election, how will he continue to handle the economy? On Friday, Biden's top economic advisor gave us a window by explaining that the administration plans for the Donald Trump's expiring tax breaks, that he will not, reinstitute those. They will be eliminated. And here's what is so mind-boggling to me. There's such a wide percentage of people who don't benefit from that. The average Joe has not and does not benefit from those major tax cuts. But Calvin, why is the average Joe upset that Joe Biden is going to not renew the tax cuts for the billionaires?
Well, I think it's probably has a lot to do with just not understanding. They just hear tax cuts and think, well, obviously we should pay less taxes, so that's a good thing. They don't consider who actually is going to benefit from paying less taxes, or if they themselves will even end up in reality paying less taxes.
Well, I guess at some point in time, 844-967-2789, I guess some point in time, these people somehow believe that they're going to wind up as one of those super wealthy people, and they don't want to possibly think that they should that these people should be taxed the way they're taxed. It's clear we need to end the 2017 tax breaks. This is from Joe Biden's White House. Who could disagree with that? Except for those who have benefited from it. As we approach the tax debate next year, the stakes could not be higher for the fairness of our tax system and our nation's fiscal future, according to the Brookings Institute. Achieving a fair tax system also means we can't extend expiring Trump tax cuts for those whose incomes are $400,000 and above. Why would people think that that's something that Joe Biden is doing that is wrong-handed, and something that he's gouging the rich. 844-967-2789. You know, Sandy and I talk about this all the time. Part of why the budget deficit is so large is because we refuse to charge those who are making, $400,000 and more a year, $400,000 and more, an equitable share of the burden of the taxes for this nation. And yet, now that Joe Biden has already talked about the fact that he's going to eliminate those cuts, the fact that the average American, so many of us, are up in arms about it is amazing to me. 844-967-2789 is the number. I'm going to continue this conversation on the other side. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show.
Of me.
All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. That's 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. Again, President Joe Biden has promised to basically, not renew the tax cuts that Donald Trump instituted. And, he is, without question, going to charge and the rich, make them pay their fair share. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is proposing even more tax cuts. And again, I'm a person who, certainly is far from, wealthy. You can't even, if the word wealthy and Earl Ingram even came close to one another, hey man, wealth would run as far away as it possibly could, because that's just not who I am. But man, I just have never understood again why the wealthy don't want to pay their fair share, and the fact that Donald Trump continues to cater to the wealthy and the average person, like myself, somehow sees that as the right thing to do. This is a typical strategy of the Democrats. This is the Republicans' response to what Joe Biden is planning, and Donald Trump's response. This is a typical strategy of the Democratic politicians who harbor disdain for capitalism and scorn for the ultra-rich, even though this is often based on false information. The rich do pay their fair share, and then some. The average tax rate for the top 0.1% of income earners is 33.5%, meaning just over 1/3 of their income is confiscated in taxes. Nobody's saying that the rich don't pay more taxes than the rest of us. It stands to reason, Calvin, if you're making $400,000 a year and you and I are making 60, you're going to pay a higher percentage of what you make into taxes. The argument is that it shouldn't be the same, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't even totally understand what a progressive tax rate even is. For the first $60,000 you make, everyone pays the same taxes, and then so on and so on. So if, say, the tax rate over 400,000 is 40%, you're only being taxed 40% on what you make over that threshold.
Yeah, that's
so. Yeah, I guess I don't understand why people would be upset with that.
Well, they've been led down, a road, and the problem with it, Calvin, is the government needs resources to run, right? We're all part of the government, right? And if the government doesn't have resources, who does that hurt? It hurts the people of the nation. Man, nobody's saying that they should take half of what people make. Biden vowed to increase the top tax rate on the wealthiest Americans to almost 40%. I'm not sure what Biden thinks rich Americans do, but they don't just make money. They also buy goods and services. If they're taxed even more, they purchase less, hire less, and spend less. This will end up hurting middle-class Americans. If he's elected and implements his tax plan, Biden will throttle the rich with taxes. Just not true, right? To say that the rich people are struggling or hurting, just not true, man. It's not true. Let's go to David from Mequon quickly. Good morning to you, David. You say what?
Hey, good morning, Earl. So you just had a guest on your program a couple days ago in regards with the Federal Reserve.
That's correct.
And so what's happening here is this. So if you look, the last few stimulus, including under the Trump regime as well, you had all trillions and trillions of additional dollars that were created out of thin air. Okay? You had the American Rescue Act. You had the chips, for Microsoft, companies like Microsoft, that was almost $400 billion. You got money going towards the green energy movement, hundreds of billions of dollars. We got literally, like, I think with Ukraine, we're up to almost like $300 billion in change now in money that we've given them. And what's happening is, if you look again at the revenue side, the revenue has gone up. It's actually not gone down. The problem is the spending. The biggest problem is the spending. We are just exponentially, it's the interest on the debt now is actually surpassed defense, which is, it's the second biggest ticket item now, the interest on the debt. And what's happening is that's eventually going to crowd out all the other things that we actually are paying for. So what Joe Biden had proposed, now keep in mind, inflation is a tax. We all feel it. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. We all feel it because, again, inflation doesn't care if you're poor or rich.
Hey, Dave, inflation is global, right?
It is global, but the difference is how do you reduce the inflation? And that's the trick.
Yeah, well, which is what President Biden has been doing, right? 844-967-2789 is the number. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show.